All right, we're going to get started in just a minute. Make sure you are in a place where you can hear and see. I was just saying to the folks in person that a difference for Zoom versus in person is the time you arrive to a meeting. In Zoom, I tend to arrive the minute it begins, but in person, you tend to get there early. It's a good practice, and this is for everyone here, that if you do have a Zoom meeting, to get there a little early, make sure everything is working. They don't have to let you in. You don't have to start talking early, but to still arrive early so that things can start in a timely fashion. All right, how are we doing today? Scale of 1 to 10. 10 being, this is the best day of my life. My wedding day, my future children, nothing will top this day. To 1 being, it can only go up from here. Hey, on your fingers, where are we at? And folks on Zoom, if you want to put on in the chat, or if you want to put it, your camera on. I see a 10. Well, that's not great. Things will get better.
Oh, I thought 10 was
10 is good, but things will get better than this, I promise. 7, that's great. A 4. Folks in the chat, if you want to help me echo the chat too.
Yes, I'm getting a lot of numbers.
Oh, good. I
I'm
haven't.
getting 8, so I'm getting 6.5,
8,
5,
6.5,
4,
5,
7,
great.
6, 7, 8s. Some people 4. Sean O'Donnell is 20.
Wow.
Yeah, he's having a fantastic day.
So if you folks on Zoom, if you can't hear me, I do have a companion you may not be able to see who's next to me to help me with the chat. Her name is Jill. She's great. So I'm sorry if I'm talking to the side. Oh, look, I made the camera go that way so you can see her. She's going to help me with some of the chat responses as well. For those of you who are, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10s, either I'm just so happy you're having a wonderful day, or you're a little bit of a liar, and that's okay. Sometimes we have to do what we need to do to be positive. But I really hope you all are having a great first 3 weeks. I would say the first 3 weeks of a semester are probably some of the toughest, especially for first-year students. How many first-year students do we have today? A lot. Mostly, I would say. Second-year students, third year, about 1, 2, and fourth year or above. Okay, cool. I would say we're leaning heavily first year, which is great. This should be some useful information for you. For those of you who have been here before, some of this might be review, and that's okay. Hopefully you'll find something that is useful for you throughout this presentation, and hopefully you can ask any questions if you're comfortable. If you want to ask questions and you're not comfortable, you can always email me afterwards. I am Miss Anthus. I'm not sure if the person in the chat was wondering who I am. I am Miss Anthus. This video seems to not be able to discover where my head is, so I'm not on the video right now. It looks like Jill is on the video. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can hear my voice all the same. If anything would happen, Zoom folks, and you cannot hear me, please just put it in the chat. We'll try to fix it. But we are going to get started. So a few things to note, this is for everyone on the call. This presentation, like the rest of ours, it's offered hybrid, so it's both on Zoom and in person. But in general, our workshops you'll get more out of it if you're in person, mostly because I'm able to talk directly to you. It's a little easier for me to engage with the person who's looking at me in front of me than with dark screens. That should not be a surprise. However, this is being recorded. You will have my information at the end if you have questions. Also, this is kind of a teaser of what we do in our office for CSS. So if any of this is interesting to you, confusing to you, need more information, you can contact me, you can contact my colleagues, and we can go into this in more depth. And then finally, I said this before, but folks, if you don't know the name of the person next to you, please physically write it down right now. Take a second to do that. This will assist us in our contact tracing efforts. So because we are very close to each other in this room, please take a second to do that. We have some folks joining us. So we'll give you all a second to write down the names of your neighbor. And welcome new people. You sit next to someone, please write down their name. on in, everyone. Okay, so also just to tell you, there will be a sign-in sheet at the end. So if you're getting credit for this, you will be able to note which course you're getting credit for, but that is at the end so that you don't sign in and leave. So you have to sit through the whole thing. There are 2 more workshops after this. We have a learning styles workshop on October 20th. That's in this room at 2 o'clock. We also have one for preparing for finals. December 1st, that's in education 115, so different location. The learning styles, we talk about the different ways that you engage with material. This is really useful if you are looking for different ways to study better or note take better because maybe you're a visual learner, something like that. Preparing for finals, we help you break down what your finals are and plan for them so that you don't wait all the way until reading days and then are waiting too late. Does anyone in here need to know what a reading day is? Is that the first time you've heard that term? A reading day. I'm very into vocabulary. I apologize if you're on this call and you already know this. I like to explain as if we're all on the same page with no prior information. A reading day is there's a set of days before finals. Classes will end and then there'll be a 3 or 4 day reading day break before finals begin. You should not have any finals assigned or due during reading days. Those are for you to prepare for finals. There'll be a 3 or 4 day final break or final block, and then another set of reading days, and then another set of finals. So you'll have a couple days of automatic study time. That said, I'm warning you not to wait until preparing for finals until those readings. You won't have enough time if you only use that time for finals. Does that make sense? Okay. So make sure if you haven't already, you can register same link that you registered for. Yes. Yeah. No. Okay, that's a good question. So he asked, is there for every class, every final, is there a set of 4 days? No. So there's going to be 4 days total. And then you're going to have a final schedule where you might have 1 or 2 finals on the same day for a certain amount of time. You'll be told well in advance when your finals are, so you can plan ahead of when you can study for each of those finals. That will be in pause. Your final schedule will be posted in pause. Any other questions? It's a good question. Okay. And if folks in Zoom, if I do not repeat the question asked here, please remind me. And just so you all know what we do in the Center for Student Success, we do a few different things. Oops, sorry. As soon as I take a step to the side, the camera starts shaking. We do academic coaching. So we work with students one-on-one to do time management, study skills, note-taking, things like that. That's tailored to you. Like I said, these workshops, there's another thing that we offer, but this is broad strokes, helpful information. You're not going to get too much about your particular schedule, your particular needs. That's what we do best in a one-on-one meeting. We also do academic advising. We do supplemental advising. You all have a primary advisor in your department. So we help assist that advising. We go over liberal learning, we go over policies, things like that. We also have students who come to us as our primary advisees as well. And we also have peer academic coaches. We have Jill is with us. She's one of our peer academic coaches. So you can meet with her to go over things like time management, study skills. Come registration period, you can talk to her about using pause to register for classes, things like that. PACs, which we call the peer advising coaches, are good, kind of like a triage. You can go and meet with them, get some kind of basic skills, get some of these questions under your belt so that when you meet with faculty or your advisor, you know a little more information going into those meetings. Am I forgetting anything about PACs?
No, that's pretty much all we do. We have office hours in Roscoe West, right in the front office of Roscoe West. You cannot miss this as you enter the building. So if any questions about pause or anything like that, or just want to know where something in Roscoe West is, if you're looking for the Center for Student Success, there you will find us.
Yep, Jill said for those who may be further from the microphone that they are located in the lobby of Roscoe West, and they have office hours. You can find those on our website, and they'll also be posted in Roscoe as well. So the broad view of what we do in CSS is we focus on you and how you succeed in the classroom. Tutoring Center works with you with content, right? If you're struggling with math content, they can go with you the types of math problems. We work with you with skills. How can you succeed in the classroom? So we focus on you. what you need is different than the person next to you. And we look at what tools you need in order to succeed. We have a holistic approach. So we view you as a whole person and you need to be healthy in order to succeed. So we look at all the different areas of your health for that. And that goes to this wellness wheel. This is TCNJ's wellness wheel. I'm actually not sure this is used anymore. It has been used the past few years, but I think it's a useful illustration to see how the different areas of wellness go together. A lot of times when we talk about wellness, we think about physical wellness or maybe even your emotional wellness. We don't often think about your financial wellness or your spiritual wellness, your environmental wellness or your social wellness. And we often in our office work on the intellectual wellness. So when I say we look at you as a holistic person, we're not just here to drive home academics. We want to make sure that all areas are doing well in order for you to succeed. Any questions on this before I go on? So we're going to talk about time management. It's a buzzword. You might hear a lot about time management. I love memes, so I apologize. I talk a lot about my love of dad jokes. This is one that I pulled off of the internet, and because I'm about to explain it, I'm about to make it unfunny, so I'm sorry for that. Explaining jokes ruins the joke. But when we think about time management, we often think about being overwhelmed and wanting to balance a ton of things. So this joke, somebody tweeted, I just saw a guy in the library cry for 5 or 6 minutes, and then his phone alarm just went off and he just stopped crying and went back to work. And this guy tweeted, it's called time management, Jessica. So that's funny. But we don't want you to be that person in the library giving yourself 5 minutes to cry so that you can go back to doing homework. We want you to be able to enjoy your time doing your work, but enjoy your time not doing work as well. So you're not so stressed out you're crying in the library. You might see some people like this. Hopefully this is not you. So what is time management? Often folks think time management is just the way you manipulate time, but I'm here to tell you we define it as you managing yourself within a set of time. I honestly think that that is a very empowering way to think about it. Like I said, I think people come to us for time management help a lot when they're already feeling underwater. They're already nervous, they're already overcommitted, they're doing too much, they're scared. And instead of thinking that time is getting away from you, think about the fact that you have control on how you manage your time within a set of time. Everyone has the same number of hours in a day. Everyone has the same number of minutes in a day. Though I said this to my class, during the pandemic, it felt a little different, right? Like time kind of felt a little more mushy. Any other words to describe how time felt during the pandemic?
Very fluid.
Fluid. Like, I don't know, it was hard to it just felt different. Some days felt super long. At the end of a day, I'd be like, well, this was a long year. And then some days I'd be like, how was that yesterday? Like, it was hard to pin down time. But that's to say you all still have the literal same number of minutes in an hour, and it's up to you to how to control yourself within that time. So it's kind of empowering. If you ever feel out of control, know that you have the control to manage yourself. So this is a part where you can participate. I want to talk to you. I'd like to hear from you. So tell me, what is on your plate? What are you balancing? And this is a literal question. Please tell me all the things you're balancing. You can note it in the chat and Jill will read them to me as well. But what are some of the things that you all are balancing?
Classes. People are having some difficulty.
Yes. ROTC.
Social life, sports, classes. Classes is a pretty big one.
Yeah, yes.
Clubs.
What did you say?
Clubs.
Clubs. Okay, so we had classes, sports, ROTC, clubs. Anyone in person? And what else? Yes. Homework. Yeah.
Mental health.
Mental health. Oh, that delights me to hear that. Mental health. What other things are you balancing? Eat. Yes. Please eat. Sleep. Please sleep. Yes. Work. Yeah. So if you'll think back to that wellness wheel, work is financial wellness, right? Sleeping and eating, that's your physical wellness. Taking care of your mental health, that's your emotional, mental health, mental wellness. Going to clubs, that's your social wellness. All of this is on there. What else are we missing? I'm so glad you guys said eating and sleeping. Yes.
Environmental wellness.
Environmental wellness. Yeah, what are some things that you're balancing to make sure you are environmentally well during the day? How does that come into balancing your day? Yeah.
I don't know if this counts, but I like to find time to walk during the day, go
Yeah.
outside.
Yes. Making sure that you are in a safe place where you feel well. So going on a walk, that's also your physical wellness and your mental wellness. Yes.
Literally just getting out of the door, we're studying somewhere new.
Yes. Literally leaving your room sometimes and studying somewhere new. We're going to talk about locations for studying in a little bit, but yeah. Yes.
Choosing the right group of people to be around.
Yes. Choosing the right group of people to be around. Nothing makes me feel more ancient than talking about peer pressure, but that's a real thing. Thinking about the kinds of people you're around, the things they're encouraging, FOMO, as the youth say, things like that. Okay. So here's some of the things that we mentioned. We didn't talk about relationships, fostering new relationships and maintaining old. How many of you are trying to stay in touch with friends from high school? Yeah, almost everybody here raised their hand. I'm trying not to knock my water over onto my computer. That doesn't just happen, right? You don't just magically stay friends. My best friend lives in San Francisco. Our main form of communication now is sending memes and TikToks because we're ancient. But we do keep in touch. We FaceTime every once in a while. We talk. That takes a committed effort. That takes time. Making new friends. How many of you went to the involvement fair? Anyone meet somebody? They're like, oh, you seem cool. Yeah, some people are nodding. That makes me happy. Anyone making new friends in their rooms and classes? Yeah. Once again, those will not just magically stay there. It takes time to nurture these friendships. Employment, somebody mentioned work. Any volunteers or bonners here? Yeah, again, some time. Any athletes? So 1, 2. Excuse me, I have a tickle. Athletics takes up a lot of time, right? You not only have to, compete, but you practice, weight, lift. I'm assuming that you do that, things like that. I was not an athlete, clearly. On-campus involvement, so organizations and clubs, academic course load, going to class, that was the top one in the chat. Readings, projects, office hours. Nobody mentioned office hours. How many of you have gone to office hours so far? Who wants to explain what office hours are? And I will repeat it for the Zoom folks. What are office hours?
When you go to a professor outside of class for extra help or just some one-on-one conversation.
Yeah, when you go to a professor outside of class for extra help, faculty have to have set times when they are available to you as students, literally in their office, either virtually or in the physical space, so that you can get help, you can make relationships with them, ask questions from class. That's a big thing you should be taking advantage of. Study groups, and then tutoring. We didn't mention tutoring. Tutoring opens today. Yippee! Any tutors in here? No, that's okay. Tutoring is free. I want to remind you, you can sign up and do tutoring online for free. You can do a one-time appointment, or if you're vibing, you can say, can we make this a thing? You can do it routinely. But that's all a lot. I mean, we didn't even mention commuting, the act of walking from one place to another or driving from one place to another. I mentioned this earlier, but the way that you arrive to something has changed because the virtual environment and in-person environment are so different. What are some other things in terms of how you use your time that's different now that we're in person rather than virtual? How is your time used differently? This is not a trick question. Yes.
Well, I heard, I'm sorry, what was the name again?
Jillian.
But I heard Jillian say before she was making lunch or something, and I feel like if I had a Zoom call, I could just eat food right before, but now I actually have to strategically
Yes.
plan when I eat
Planning your meals. You can't just like grab something on the go because you actually have to think about where is that meal coming from? Well, I think about that now that I'm commuting to work. I have to bring my lunch with me so I don't go bankrupt. I can't buy lunch every day. My husband makes my lunch, so I have to make sure to bring my lunch with me. But we didn't have to do that before. I could just pop down to the kitchen. So yes, planning your meals. What else has changed? Yes.
You have to get ready and like actually get dressed, get your
Get
pajamas.
ready, get dressed. I wasn't wearing a dress when I was working at home. I had this pair of joggers that was my favorite, and I had a routine, you know, like a cycle of shirts. It took me about 5 minutes to get ready. I try a little harder now that I know I'm going to see 100 people in a day rather than the 5 that I have an appointment with, more than 5. But you have to think about how long it takes to get ready and be honest about how long it takes to get ready. My husband always says that he'll be ready in 5 minutes. That's not true. He takes longer than me. So you have to think about how long, if I'm going to need to get to class at 10 and I need to actually, you know, put on some clothes and like maybe brush my hair and look okay, you have to add time into your day for that. Any other uses of time that are different now that you have to think about now that we're in person again? Anything in the chat?
So far, nothing in the chat, although they can volunteer anything at any time and I will read it for them.
I think the big one for me is how I use my downtime.
I need to go on. I have to plan when to leave the class rather than just hopping on a Zoom.
Yes.
I also feel that one. My morning classes are a lot harder now than they were before because I don't just have to get to the computer. I have to get to a building.
The commute to class is what the folks in the chat said, and that's definitely true. I taught an 8 a.m. Last spring on Zoom, and it was always delightful to see what positions people would be in for that class. Like, you know, in their beds, just like with their pillows or their cats, and you know, just like cozy on the couch. And it's always kind of nice. It was like we all just got to like have a nice morning meeting. But now, you know, if you have an 8 a.m., you can't just wake up at 8. You have to think about that. Like I said before, the downtime is now in public for me. And that is something to think about. But if I'm at home, working at home, or if I'm working virtually and I get off of a call, no one can see me in the next 10 minutes if I need 10 minutes to myself. I can just go, you know, take my dog outside, take a deep breath. I can be quiet with myself. When you're in person and you're working and in class around people, you have to think about how you use that 10 minutes to get that same effect, but you're in public. So these are all things to think about. We want you to be well overall, and so you have to think about how you're using each of these bits of time. So keys to managing yourself. Know yourself. I'm going to say this a bunch of times in this presentation. You are not the same as the person next to you, and you have to know yourself and be honest about who you are and what you need, and plan ahead. So what kind of learner are you? Do you want to be able to work in a group, but you actually know you work better by yourself? But, you know, a lot of people are going to brunch in the morning, and you know, maybe you could study with them at brunch. You have to be honest about where you work best. What are your study habits? What worked well for you in high school that you can take with you? What worked well for you working virtually that you can take with you? What environments do you do well in? Tell me about your environments where you do work that work for you. Yeah.
The library.
Excuse me, the library. Why do you like the library?
Quiet. Not that many people.
Quiet and what?
Not that many people.
Not that many people. Yes.
I also like the library, but for a different reason. When I'm in my room, just seeing my bed there, like, you know, I can go take a nap. But in the library, I'm like workspace. I can't take a nap in the library.
Yeah.
It's more of no distraction.
Yeah, so I'm really glad you said that. So he said the library because his room is too comfortable and distracting. How many of you are distracted in your own rooms?
Somebody in the chat just says, I don't work. I'm fine.
I do so many presentations and I have really bad allergies, so I get tickles a lot. So I apologize. I'm gonna have to do that a bunch more times. Yes, we get too comfortable in our beds. How many of you read tucked into bed? Get cozy, you pull up your blanket, you have your tea. How many of you then get a little sleepy? Yeah. So that might feel nice, but maybe that's not the best place to do your work. Maybe that's how you make yourself go to sleep, but that's not where you do your study for your bio exam in the morning. What motivates you? I say knowing yourself is a way to managing yourself. You will have your own individual reason for feeling motivated. I have a picture of my son and my husband right next to my computer. I look at when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm like, oh, why am I working so hard all the time? I look at them and they're my reason why. Let me hear some of your reason whys. What motivates you to do well? Why are you here at TCNJ? You don't have to disclose anything you don't want to, but I'd like to hear some reasons you are motivated. And if there's anything good in the chat, let me know.
I will definitely let you know. Someone said my dad.
Oh, that's sweet. Someone said their dad. Yes,
Your goals. You have to-
your future. So maybe yourself. I feel bad. Some of you have heard me done this presentation. I use the same jokes all the time. How many of you watch Parks and Rec? I do. Jack does on Zoom. So in Parks and Rec, she gets a new job. She puts up all of her wall of inspiring women, and she puts up a picture of herself. And she says, I'm not too big to say I inspire myself. If you are the one who got you here and you are the driver of your success, maybe you're your motivation, and that's great. I have people be like, I need to make some money. If you need to like take a picture of you holding some money bags and you frame that, then do what you need to do. I say that in jest, but really think about what's motivating you. Is it your parents? Is it the fact that you're paying for school? These are all legitimate things. And if you ever feel like you're overwhelmed and you need to be recentered of why you're here, think about that. And likewise, you can think about what makes you feel accomplished. What are some things that make you feel like you've done something right? And please tell me, what are the things that when this happens, you're like, I did well? It could be something that somebody says. Yes. Meeting deadlines. That feels good. I was one of those like elementary school kids who loved to bring my backpack. And when I had my homework, I was like, I got it. I unfortunately was the one that was like, you said this was due today. So I was very popular. What else makes you feel accomplished? What are those things that when you do that, you're like, I've done well today? Yes.
Crossing up things from my planner.
Yes. Oh, that feels good. Crossing things off your planner. How many of you like to cross things off your list? Oh, so many hands. You are my people. Me too. How many of you like to-do lists? Yes, my people. We are one. Make those to-do lists, cross them off. Do whatever you need to do to manage yourself. And now, likewise, being honest also means being honest about what's holding you back. We are very good at lying to ourselves about what our distractions are. This is the one this is my phone for those of you who can't see me. The distraction of the phone, again, this makes me feel ancient. This is the one we lie to ourselves the most about. I can work with my phone. I can work while I'm doing things on my phone. Being honest about how we use our phones while we're doing work is a big roadblock I see. What are some other roadblocks, other distractions, other things getting in your way? Yes. I'm sorry? Hulu?
Oh, yeah.
It's like streaming. I used to say cable, but I don't think anybody watches TV anymore. Like Netflix, Hulu. What else?
People.
People.
Distracting.
Yes.
Especially being back in person. Suddenly there's people all around you.
Yeah, and the type of people who distract you is different now. In the remote environment, my son was my biggest distraction. When we went remote, he was 18 months old. He needed me physically all the time in order to survive the day. I couldn't leave him alone. Now he's taken care of at daycare, but you know, if I sit down to do work, and I don't mean this in a negative way, I love what I do, but often students come in. I don't often get to do like an hour block of work because I'm talking to students. That's a distraction. So I have to make sure I factor that into my time of how long it'll take me to do something because I know I might be distracted. People who are living on campus for the first time, it's really fun to have like friends down the hall. That feeling of community is so important, but can also be a distraction. Any other honest distractions that you know might get in your way of doing your best work? Yes.
When I do work, I get bored very easily. So I need like something to like keep my mind like running, like when I do my homework, I have YouTube open on one screen and then my work on the other, and it's the only way I can work.
Okay, so he said he gets bored easily, so so like keeping stimulated while you're doing it. So you have YouTube on one side, and oh my goodness, that's distracting.
I usually pick things I can only listen to,
Yeah.
so my eyes are focused on my work.
Yeah. Well, a big part of that is motivation. A lot of students, especially working virtually, motivation was a big factor we struggled with. How many of you are procrastinators? Oh man, that hand went up so hard. Any folks online, are you procrastinators too? There's a lot of procrastination, and before we get into procrastinating, I want to urge you.
Getting a lot of yeses.
A lot of yeses. Something I think that there's often this aura of being in college, there is a typical way that college students act. And sometimes we lean into that stereotype. And I'm here to tell you, you do not need to do that. Sometimes we procrastinate because it's our nature to, and sometimes because that's like what we do in college. You don't have to do it. And there's ways to help you get around that if you are doing it. I'm just saying, don't lean into the stereotype. I think a lot of times it's like, well, I'm in college, I'm gonna do an all-nighter. I'm in college, so I'm not gonna sleep. That's not the best way for your body. It's not the best way for you to learn. So you don't have to lean into that. That said, procrastination is a real thing. And here's my fun memes. My guy, Michael Scott, when I procrastinate for 6 hours and then stay up all night doing homework. Why are you the way that you are? I think he's saying that to Toby. And then I'm going to study at 5, I'm going to study at 6. Why are you like this guy? So I think a lot of us have had that kind of situation where we just keep putting it off. Here's some reasons that people procrastinate, but I want to hear, what stops you from starting a big project? What do you think your reasons for procrastinating are? Yes.
I get overwhelmed really easily.
Okay.
So, like, if there's a lot of words on an assignment or something, like, I'm just like, this is too much.
Yeah, overwhelmed. If it looks too big, it's just like, I'm not even going to start it. What else?
I feel like sometimes I have too many other things to do first, in order, like I have to do those first before I can really sit down and start something new.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. You feel like you have so many other things you need to do first, so you keep going to those things before starting maybe a larger project. Did you have your hand up too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I have like bad or unpleasant experience in the past with the subject.
Yeah. A bad or unpleasant experience in the past with the subject, definitely. That's why I've never done rock climbing again. One time, never again. Yes.
Like, if you know it's gonna be something difficult, like, you just push it off.
Because it's hard, you know you're not gonna, it's gonna be really tough. I'll get to it, I get to it.
We're getting some things in the chat, like not fully understanding the requirements, you're afraid of messing it up.
Not fully understanding the requirements and afraid of messing it
Don't
up.
like the subject, would just rather do something else.
Yeah.
TikTok.
TikTok, oh God, my old soul loves
stress.
TikTok. Yeah. Okay, stress, not understanding the assignment. All of these things are the common reasons actually that are up here. The project seems too big. And either you don't understand the different components or it's really overwhelming. And so to just even engage with it seems like too much. How many of you are perfectionists? That is like the TCNJ specialty. We have a lot of perfectionists here, and a lot of us, myself included, sometimes shy away from difficult things because we know if we're not going to do it well, we don't even want to do it. That's my Virgo self. If I'm not going to do it well, why even? But that's not the purpose of learning. And I know, again, that's not what every student wants to hear, but even the act of trying is an act of learning. So the fear of failure, the fear of not getting it perfect can stop students from starting. Difficult or unpleasant tasks, that's what folks are saying. Maybe you had a bad experience with it or you just don't like it. Or maybe you've been rewarded in the past after procrastinating. How many of you have pulled an I'm not going to report this to your faculty. How many of you have pulled an all-nighter or done a last-minute cram session, then you still got an A? Yeah. That is, we've been rewarded sometimes for procrastinating, so it's not a problem. We have the procrastinator's motto here, and this is kind of hard. It's hard to guess out of nowhere, but what are some mottos that procrastinators might tell themselves? What are some things you might say to yourself to excuse your procrastination? Yes.
I've got time.
I've got time, that's one. Yeah,
I always end up getting it done in the end somehow.
yep, oh, it's gonna get done somehow. Yeah,
I work better under pressure.
I work best under pressure. That's the one that we always say. So we tell ourselves, we're gonna do I do fine under pressure. That adrenaline will push me through and then I still do well.
Some say it's easy and then you just get it done
Yep.
later.
I can get it done later. Why do today what you can do tomorrow? But here's some things to do if you have any of these common issues. The first, for if the project seems too big, if you're overwhelmed, is to break it down. We're going to go into that in a second. I'll give you some tips for breaking it down. And again, this is the kind of thing that we can do with you one-on-one in a session with us. If you have this big project and you're like, help, I don't know what to do, we can help you identify that and break it down. The fear of failure, perfectionism, this is the hard one. There's not like a trick to not be a perfectionist. You care a lot. But what I do is I talk out loud what I'm feeling and I pretend that it's somebody else saying it to me. So, and like my husband's finishing his dissertation right now. He's very scared of doing the last defense. So I have him say out loud, like, what are you so scared of for this? I'm scared that if I do it, I'm not gonna do it well and I'll be embarrassed and I'll have to do it all over again and that's gonna be really embarrassing and I'll let you down. So hearing yourself say it out loud, you can kind of piece through the different issues there. I'm not even gonna start this because I know if I'm not gonna do it well, I'm gonna be disappointed in myself. Saying that out loud to a friend, they can help you work through some of those things, or a counselor or somebody in our office too. We recommend starting with unpleasant tasks first because you're more likely to keep pushing them off if you don't like them. If you have unpleasant tasks or a class that you're just not in love with, you can get that work done first so that you can get to the work that you enjoy more and really dive into that. If you skip right to the stuff you like, you're probably not going to give your full attention to the stuff that you don't. And then finally, if you have been rewarded in the past for procrastinating, just think how much better you could do if you give yourself that time and that space to actually do better. If you can do a B work with an all-nighter, give yourself 4 days. Imagine what you could do. You could do even better. So breaking down tasks is one that is not an innate thing that students do. So I'm just going to give you a quick example of how to do this. And this is, again, something that we practice. The first is to make sure, and this is something somebody in the chat said, that you don't always understand the different components of the assignment. So the first thing to do is make sure you understand that. Make sure which pieces you're going to be graded on. And even if you're not graded on them, make sure you know what the assignment actually is. Ask your professor if you don't know. And then create a timeline by going backward. And I'm going to give an example of the airport to help you with that, but make sure you write this down in a timeline or a place that you'll know so that you can't just ignore the timeline. If you have a whiteboard that you use for assignments, a planner, make this somewhere visible so that you are reminded of the timeline. So I use this example of the airport because if you have a flight, you don't just arrive at the airport. Let's say I have a 2 p.m. flight. What are all the things I need to do to get ready for the flight? This is an actual question. What do I need to do? Yes.
You have to get your bags checked.
I have to check my bags at the airport. What else? Yes. I have to drive to the airport. I live about an hour away from an airport. Yes.
Get your bags packed.
Pack the bags. Yes. What else? Yes.
Security.
Security. Ooh, yes. What else? Yes.
Find which terminal is yours.
Yeah, find your way. You're gonna buy your ticket. So all of these things have to happen in a sequential order and you have to time them out. You have to buy your ticket, right? I have to know how long it's gonna take me to pack. For my overnight, like I'll just pack two hours before I go on a vacation or just home for the weekend or to college. For my I will have my stuff packed 1 week in advance so that in case I need to do laundry. Yes, that's me too. But you, again, know yourself, know how long that takes. You have to pack. You have to make sure you can get to the airport. You have to go through security. You have to find your gate. You have to, if you're me, you have to get your little nibbles. I need my chocolate. I need my little soda, and then I need to find my seat. To do that, you have to work backwards for the time. If I have a 2 p.m. flight, I know I need to be at the airport by 2:30, which means I need to leave my house by 1:30, which means I need to wake up around make sure by 11 for sure, but I like breakfast, so 10. You see what I'm doing here? That's what you're gonna do with the assignments. An example, let's say you have a research paper. It's due on October 26th. The tasks that you need to do are have an approved topic. You have to do research, a rough draft, final draft, and a writing conference. So first you identify those pieces. And now, as Missy Elliott says, you flip it and reverse it. So now it's due the 26th. It's due to you the 25th, which means you need to visit the writing center before that, which means the final draft needs to be done before that. And you can see each step working backwards. So your final topic actually needs to be identified October 5th. So that sounds like a lot of work, right? And can be daunting. For one paper alone, I just said there might need to be 5 or 6 things you need to do. So a big thing to do is to find the free time in which to be able to do all of these pieces. And that, I think, is a big roadblock for first-year students. A big thing I see in my office is about halfway through the semester, first-year students come to me panicking because they actually have not been using their free time appropriately, and now they're very behind, and their midterm grades are not where they want them to be. A huge change between high school and college is the way your days are structured. What time did you go to school in high school? 7? Who's even awake at 7 right now? Oh, okay, well, okay, excuse me. A lot of you raised your hand. I beg pardon.
By choice.
Not by choice. So to get to high school by 7, you probably had to wake up a lot earlier than that. What time did you get out of school? 2:40-ish? And then what did you have after school activities? And then you had dinner, you did your homework. What time did you go? Well, actually, don't tell me what time you went to bed. You went time to bed, but your day was structured from beginning to end. Now, your days look different every single day. You might have 1 class, you might have no classes all day, you might have 4 classes in a row. And that makes it a little hard. You have a lot more free time in between. And a big hiccup that students run into is seeing a big long day with nothing and being like, oh, sweet, that's my video game time. And not treating that as time to do work for your class. So a practice to do, and we're not going to do this together, but this is what we do when we meet with you one-on-one and that you can do on your own, is to start by finding your free time and watching how you use it and planning to use it better. So pick a place to block your time. How many of you use Google? All right, how many of you are paper planner folks? Who's neither and wants to tell me how they plan their time? Any whiteboard people? Yes. Some people have big pieces of paper or a big wall map. Wherever it is, start writing in your time. Show where you're going to class. Show when you're watching TV, watching YouTube, whatever, Netflix. Put in any clubs you're going to, doctor's appointments. Put in your breakfasts, your lunch. Put in any commitments, your work, your volunteer hours, so you can visually see it. Put your personal stuff in there too. And now you can see where your free time is in between. Something I tell students is that it's a good idea to, if you're feeling overwhelmed, start journaling how you're using that free time. Because often you're not even paying attention to what you're doing. It's kind of like if you have an allergic reaction to something, they have you keep a food journal so you track everything you eat to know what the problem is. If you have a problem with your time, start tracking how you're using your time. So if you feel like the last few weeks you've been overwhelmed, start writing down, what did you do between classes that day? What did you do the 2 hours after class that day? And keep track of it like that. The final thing I'll say on this is that the last step, once you see how you use your time, is to devote specific devoted time to studying and to homework separately, but purposefully. What's the difference between studying and homework? I will Carlton dance if nobody answers. Yes.
Homework is something that you're going to turn in, and studying is just to refresh your knowledge.
Yeah, so homework is usually a task you're accomplishing, you might be turning in, and studying, you're going over things, you're reviewing things. Both are important. Often we forget to study because we're so focused on homework, but studying should be a continual act throughout the semester. So if you are blocking your time out, it might look something like this. This is a student who's in 4 classes, goes to tutoring twice a week, is in Bonner 12 hours a week, that's volunteering, has to work and has 2 meetings. Does that kind of sound like anybody's scheduling here a little bit? I see 1. Too much, too little on this schedule. Does yours feel more packed?
Little,
I can't hear you.
Too little.
this one's a little small.
Too small? What other things need to be on here?
Extra classes.
Yeah.
Okay, we got engineers in here, so you probably have 5 classes. Sports. For me, my Monday nights are blocked. I'm watching football. Thursday nights blocked. All of your personal things should be on there too. So yeah, it might be a little light. But after you do that, you can look at all the free time. All this yellow is free time. The last step, like I said, go in and put in concerted study times. Some tips from this. I like that this person put like an hour right before class. A good tip is to arrive to the building early and review right before you go to class. You'll kind of warm up. You can review any questions you might have for your professor. If you do have any last minute tasks, you can do that. Same thing with staying afterwards. Go over your notes. If you have anything that was confusing, write down questions you have so you can go to office hours. But use the time right before or right after class. That's really helpful. There's some blocks of time on here, but there's no studying past 11. And like I said, if you do this, be honest about your wake up times too. Often I sit with students and they're like, I'm gonna wake up at 6:30, work out till 7:30 and then get breakfast. And I'm like, check with me in a week and see if you really did that, because that's not too likely. So again, being honest with yourself and what you really can commit to. That is my whole thing. I'm going to put the sign up there now, but are there any questions before I put the sign up there? If you need to, take a photo of this. This is our the email address for the office, CSS. Our website is not up there, but it's css.tcmj.edu. That's my email. Follow us on Instagram. We have challenges where you can win prizes. And you can find funny videos that I make that I think are funny. Nobody else does. Any questions for me? And let me know if there's anything there.
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you would like to sign in, which I know all of you do, please scan this. If you have a problem, we'll have to figure that out. But if you could post that sign in the chat as well.
Yes.
So folks on Zoom, you can sign in on the chat. Folks in person, that should take you to a sign-in page. There are some feedback questions. Please be honest. I will not be offended. And you can let me know how to give you credit.
Might take a while to get the scan.
You know if it doesn't work. This is our first QR experience.